Morning, everyone. As President of Leeds United Supporters Club Malta, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to today's event. And especially warm welcome to our very special guest, Mr. Eddie Gray. And his wife, Mrs. Linda Gray. Eddie, it's truly an honor to have you all with us here in Malta. You are a name that needs no introduction. A true Leeds United legend, part of an unforgettable era, and someone who has continued to represent our club with pride and a class both on end of the pitch. For us supporters, this means a great deal. Leeds United has always been more than just a football club. It is a family. And today, having you and Linda here makes that family feel a little closer together. Eddie and Linda, thank you for joining us. And thank you to everyone here for keeping the white flag flying high. Today, we gathered here to celebrate the 6 years of our club. We published a book about the events and milestones we achieved during these years. We recognize the tremendous efforts of previous committees and the guidance President Simon Farrugia and his own committee, which many join us today. I can see Alan Cordina, Ray Saliba, Eugene Scambri, and others. Our achievements, our results, are a reflection of all efforts, including those our members. Without their support, our success would not be possible. We achieve results because each and every one of us respect side before self. Marching on together.
First of all, I'd just like to say, on behalf of my wife and I, it's a pleasure to be here among friends, among Leeds United supporters. Confession to make. Before I went to Leeds United, I played with the Glasgow schoolboys and the Scottish schoolboys, and a scout called John Barr from Scotland. He was a scout for Leeds United. Came to the door and he asked to see my dad and me. And when my dad says to me, and this is true, when my dad says to me, there's a scout from Leeds United at the door, I says, who? True. I'd never heard of him because he'd never won anything. He'd never done anything. When I grew up in Glasgow, the big clubs were the Manchester clubs and the Arsenal. And the scout called John Barry was saying we've got a new manager, Don Revie. And I knew Mr. Revie obviously because Don Revie was a great footballer. Footballer of the year for Manchester City when he played with Manchester City. And he came to Leeds and he used to pop up to my house in Glasgow. When I was 14 till I was 15, he'd come up every couple of weeks. And every time he'd come up, he always gave my dad a little sweetener. You know what a little sweetener is? Just a few pounds, you know, to make sure I was going to go to Leeds United. And obviously, it's the best move I ever made. And I remember him saying, I was playing for the Scottish schoolboys at the time, and I was playing on the Saturday. And he come up to my house in Glasgow on a Friday, and he says to my mum and dad, have his bags packed on Monday morning. My mum says, what do you mean? he says, well, he's coming down to Leeds with me on Monday morning after the game on Saturday. And my mum says to him, he doesn't leave school for another 2 months. And he says to my mum, he's leaving school on Monday morning. So he came up to the house Monday morning and asked me where my school was, and he drove me to my school. And where's the headmaster's office, he says to me. So I says, right, there's the headmaster's office. He says, right, you stand outside. And 2 minutes later, the headmaster of the school came out and shook my hand and says, all the best in your new career, Gray. I think Don must have gave him an envelope with something in it. And that's true. And it was straight down to Leeds. And so I was at a young age, I was very fortunate to go to a club where the manager was terrific. Don Revie was obviously a great footballer. As I say, he was footballer of the year when we played with Manchester City. But he was a great manager. And it was just a privilege to play for the players, you know, that I played with, for the manager. Still a long association, still associated with the club. So it means a lot to me. I mean, we joined somewhere when you're 14, 15. And I'm well into my 70s now, getting nearer 80 than 70. So you just you appreciate it. I don't know if you want me going or we're going to talk later. You know, yeah. So
if you stay 2 hours, they will
and they can ask questions later. So when I first went to Leeds, we used to say what you call digs with landladies, you know, and landlords, and they weren't very good actually. And me and my best mate, Jimmy Lumsden, who came down from Glasgow, Jimmy never made it at Leeds, he never made it as a footballer at Leeds, but he became a great coach, Jimmy, with Glasgow Celtic and Everton, with David Moyes. He's still my best mate in life. There's about 3 or 4 times we packed our suitcases and went back to Ellen Road and says to Don Revie, if you don't get us better digs than this, we're going back to Scotland, we're going back home. So I always used to have to find us somewhere else to live, somewhere a little bit better. But the experience of playing for Leeds United and playing for the manager and playing with great players, I mean, it's funny, you know, people say, what is the best moments of your career? Well, to tell you the truth, basically, it was sitting in the dressing room, and this is true before every game, and looking at the quality of players I was playing with, and thinking to myself, there's no way we can be beat today. And it's a great feeling to have that. You know, when you look at all the players, I mean, at one time, Don had assembled at the club 14 full international players, 15 really, but one of them never really get in the team. But it just goes to show you, you know, how Don was as a manager. But Don Revie's obviously the most important player, person that's walked through the gates at Ellen Road. But the most important player that's ever walked through the gates at Ellen Road, ever, is a chap called Bobby Collins. Who remembers Bobby Collins? Bobby was 5'3", and Bobby was a great player. But Bobby was, what can I say, ruthless. Bobby would kill you to win, you know he would. And he was 5'3", but Bobby was a great player. And he taught everybody at Leeds United. And we wouldn't actually be sitting here today talking about Leeds United Football Club as they are if it wasn't for Bobby Collins. Definitely not. Because Bobby taught all the young players. I remember walking into the dressing room. I used to try and sneak into the dressing room at half time just to listen to what was going on. I was only 15. And Don Revie would be standing at the side and Bobby Collins would be telling all the players, Bremner, you are hopeless, you're useless. And he threw the whole team. You know, he was really, he's the man that actually made Leeds United. And the reason I'm telling you this is because Bobby doesn't get the credit. A lot of people haven't even heard of Bobby Collins, but he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. Because every player at Leeds United looked up to Bobby.
Who was from Leeds?
Bobby was Scottish. Oh, I was Scottish, Bobby. He played with Matty. played with Glasgow Celtic. I used to watch Bobby when I was a boy, and he was a great player.
The team was Scottish.
All the team was Scottish. And Bobby was, I mean, when I say he was 5'3", but you wouldn't want to pick a fight with Bobby Collins. Oh, I remember one night, he lived in a very smart area called Old Woodley. And he was a bit crazy, Bob, you know, he was. And one night in his house at Old Woodley, there was these 5 young chaps about age 18 to 20, and were shouting and carrying on. And Bobby was always very polite. He walked out and he says to these 5 chaps, little boys about 18, 19. And at that time, Bobby was about 74, 75. And, excuse me, chaps, would you mind keeping the noise down? It's a nice area, this. Tone the language down a bit. I'm in here with my wife. And they got a volume of abuse for these young boys. So what Bobby did, he walked into his garage, he took his driver out his golf bag, this is true, and he chased them, and he hit the biggest one with the driver, and they never come back. And that's true, that's why Bobby was. So, you know, the story when I was 15, John Revy used to split us into 4 groups, and the 4 groups had a captain, and through the pre-season, you know, we're building up to the season, you used to play for points. Everything you did was for points. And the winning captain and his team got a present off Don Revy. So the 4 teams, and I was in Bobby's team. I just joined the club, I was in Bobby's team. And the most points you could get was for a cross-country run, a long run round the park in Leeds. And Bobby came up to me, and he looked at me, 5'3", put his finger, looked up to me. I want 20 points off you today. 20 points for the win. I looked at Bobby and I thought, you want 20 points, you're getting 20 points. I'm not going to argue with you. So I'm running around the park, and clearly all the players, for by an old Scottish pro called Jim Story. So I'm running with Jim, and I can think, oh, this is easy. I can run away for you anytime. And Story, being an old pro he is, he says to me, Eddie, we've left them all behind. We're running together. We get 20 points each for the team. So I think that's fair enough in all Scottish pro. You know, we're running together, we're in different teams. So stupidly, I'm running with him. About 20 yards to the line, Jim Story says to me, right, let's make sure we get chest to chest. So we run in the line together. 2 yards to the line, he runs away from me, Story. He gets 20 points for his team, I get nothing. Bobby Collins comes in and he sees Don Revy, the manager, killing himself laughing. Story killing himself laughing. He asked me what happened. I told him, and he chinned me. I mean, proper chinned me. You know, never let that happen to you again. And it never did, you know. And that was Bobby. And that's why I say, if it wasn't for Bobby Collins, you know, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about the great Leeds United, because he taught everybody. You know, because sometimes in football, you know, it's a ruthless game. It can be ruthless. And there was nobody more determined and more ruthless than Bobby about winning football matches, as well as being a great player. I mean, when he came to Leeds, everybody thought he was finished. You know, he'd beat the Celtic, he'd went to Everton, he was a great Everton player when he went to Everton. Came to us when he's 34, 35, and most people thought he's had his time. The first year he came to Leeds, he was Footballer of the Year in England. He won Footballer of the Year. So it shows what a great player he was. But I've always says, you know, you get your Brenders and your Charltons, your Hunters and your Lormers, all the players. But Bobby Collins is the most important player, because he was the man that started it all. I mean, I go to every game now, you know, to watch Leeds United. I think the club are back in the upward trend. Hopefully, I think the most important thing for us this season is to stay in the Premier League. You know, that is the most important thing, and build through there. And hopefully we can. I mean, the thing about the football club is it's got a great fan base. The ground just isn't big enough now, and they're making the ground bigger. So they hopefully, you know, the club will be able to bring a little bit better quality player to the football club, and that's not criticising the players that are there just now, the players at the football clubs that are there just now have done a terrific job. If you're going to challenge the top end of the league, which hopefully we will do, you need that bit of quality. And I think that's what the club are trying to do. I think it's trying to bring one or two players that come into the football club. I've got that little bit of quality that can compete at the top end. And that's where the club wants to be, at the top end of the division. But I think we're going to have a question and answer session. So if anybody wants to, ask me any questions, I'll answer them. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This event, thanks to Mr. De Grey and our ambassador in Leeds who made all the contacts.
Good morning, everybody. Real pleasure to see you all this morning. So many smiling faces that I happen to recognise, but most importantly, Eddie, welcome to Malta.
Yes, thank
you. Malta welcomes you. Have a fantastic time. Enjoy today, and let's have a little bit of fun too.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.